The haunting of the Tallman family in 1987. The Tallman family moved into their new home in Horicon, Wisconsin, unaware that this ordinary house would soon become the center of one of the most terrifying hauntings in American history. The trouble began after the family purchased a bunk bed from a second-hand shop. Soon after bringing it into their home, strange and terrifying events started to unfold. The children began seeing ghostly figures, including a woman with glowing red eyes and a ghastly presence that would stand at the foot of their bed. The family members were also subjected to disturbing poltergeist activity. Furniture would move on its own, objects would disappear, and a mysterious, eerie chanting could be heard throughout the house at night. One particularly terrifying incident involved the father, Alan Tallman. He awoke one night to see a strange foggy figure at the foot of his bed. The figure slowly transformed into a hideous creature with glowing red eyes. In another incident, Alan was tormented by a voice coming from the garage, calling him to come here. When he investigated, he found nothing, but the voice continued to taunt him for several days. The family became so terrified that they sought help from their church, but the activity only grew worse. Finally, in January 1988, the Tallmans fled their home, leaving all their possessions behind. The haunting ceased once they left the house, and they never returned. The house has since been sold, and no further incidents have been reported, but the story of the Tallman haunting remains one of the most disturbing and well-documented cases of paranormal activity in the United States. Point 2. The exorcism of Anneliese Michel. Anneliese Michel, a young woman from Germany, became the subject of one of the most terrifying exorcism cases in modern history. Born in 1952, Anneliese was raised in a devout Catholic family. However, during her teenage years, she began to experience disturbing symptoms, including seizures and hallucinations. Despite medical treatment, her condition worsened. Convinced that she was possessed by demons, Anneliese and her family turned to the church for help. Between 1975 and 1976, Anneliese underwent 67 exorcism sessions, during which she displayed increasingly violent and disturbing behavior. She would scream uncontrollably, speak in different languages, and engage in acts of extreme self-harm. The priests involved believed she was possessed by several demons, including Lucifer, Judas, and Nero. During her exorcisms, Anneliese refused to eat, believing that she was not allowed to consume food by the demons possessing her. Her condition deteriorated rapidly, and she became emaciated. Despite her parents' and the priest's efforts, Anneliese died on July 1, 1976, from malnutrition and dehydration. She was only 23 years old. Anneliese's death led to a court case in which her parents and the priests were charged with negligent homicide. They were eventually found guilty but received reduced sentences, as the court acknowledged that Anneliese had been in a state of severe psychological distress. The case has since become a source of controversy, with some viewing it as a tragic example of religious fanaticism, while others believe it was a genuine case of demonic possession. Point 3. The disappearance of Elisa Lam. The mysterious disappearance and death of Elisa Lam at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles is a case that has fascinated and horrified people around the world. Elisa, a 21-year-old Canadian student, was traveling alone and staying at the infamous Cecil Hotel in January 2013. Elisa was last seen on January 31, 2013, and her disappearance puzzled investigators. The only clue was a bizarre surveillance video taken from the hotel's elevator. In the footage, Elisa is seen acting erratically, pressing multiple buttons, peeking out of the elevator as if hiding from someone, and making strange hand movements. The video went viral, and people speculated wildly about what might have happened to her. Weeks later, guests at the hotel began complaining about low water pressure and strange-tasting water. On February 19, 2013, maintenance workers investigated the water tanks on the roof of the hotel and discovered Elisa's decomposing body inside one of them. Her death was ruled an accidental drowning, but many questions remain unanswered. How did Elisa get onto the roof, which was locked and alarmed? How did she get into the water tank, which was nearly impossible to access? And what explains her bizarre behavior in the elevator video? The case has spawned countless theories, ranging from foul play to supernatural involvement, but the truth behind Elisa Lam's death remains a chilling mystery. Point 4. The Dyatlov Pass Incident. The Dyatlov Pass Incident is one of the most enduring mysteries in Russian history. In 1959, a group of 9 experienced hikers led by Igor Dyatlov set out on a trek through the Ural Mountains. They were expected to return by February 12, but when no word came from them, a search party was sent out. What they discovered was horrifying. The hikers, tent was found torn open from the inside, and the group had fled into the freezing night without adequate clothing. Over the next few weeks, their bodies were discovered scattered across the mountainside. Some of the hikers had severe injuries, including skull fractures and broken ribs, but no external wounds. One of the victims was missing her tongue and eyes, and traces of radiation were found on some of their clothing. The Soviet authorities concluded that the hikers died of hypothermia and that their injuries were caused by a compelling natural force. However, the mysterious circumstances of their deaths have led to numerous theories, including an avalanche, a military experiment gone wrong, and even extraterrestrial involvement. Despite multiple investigations, the true cause of the Dyatlov Pass incident remains unknown, leaving it as one of the most chilling and unexplained events in history. 5. The Villisca Axe murders on June 10, 1912, in the quiet town of Villisca, Iowa, one of the most gruesome and unsolved mass murders in American history took place. The Moore family, consisting of parents Josiah and Sarah Moore and their 4 children, along with 2 young friends who were staying the night, were all brutally murdered with an axe while they slept. The killer had entered the home during the night, methodically bludgeoning each victim to death. The crime scene was horrific, with blood splattered across the walls and ceiling. The killer then covered the faces of the victims with clothing and lingered in the house for some time, even preparing a meal that was left uneaten. Despite a thorough investigation and several suspects being questioned, no one was ever charged with the murders. The case remains unsolved, and the Moore house is now considered one of the most haunted locations in the United States. Visitors to the house have reported hearing children's voices, seeing shadowy figures, and feeling an overwhelming sense of dread. The Villisca Axe murders continue to captivate and terrify those who delve into the details of the case, as the true identity of the killer and the reasons behind the brutal slayings remain shrouded in mystery. 6. The Black-Eyed Children. The legend of the Black-Eyed Children is a relatively recent phenomenon, but it has quickly become one of the most terrifying urban legends of the modern era. The first known account dates back to 1996, when a journalist named Brian Bethel reported a strange encounter in Abilene, Texas. According to Bethel, he was sitting in his car in a parking lot one evening when 2 young boys approached him. The boys, who appeared to be around 10 to 14 years old, asked Bethel for a ride home. As they spoke, Bethel felt an overwhelming sense of dread. He noticed that the boys' eyes were completely black, no whites, just solid black orbs. Terrified, Bethel quickly drove away, but the encounter haunted him. He later shared his experience online, and soon, others came forward with similar stories of encounters with black-eyed children. These children are often described as having pale skin, black eyes, and an unnerving demeanor. They typically approach people at night, asking to be led inside homes or cars, and those who encounter them often report feeling an overwhelming sense of fear. While many dismiss the stories as mere urban legend, the consistency of the reports and the fear they instill in those who hear them have made the Black-Eyed Children one of the most chilling and mysterious figures in modern folklore. 7. The Enfield Poltergeist. In 1977, the quiet London suburb of Enfield became the site of one of the most famous and well-documented poltergeist cases in history. The Hodgson family, consisting of a single mother, Peggy Hodgson, and her 4 children, began experiencing strange occurrences in their home. It started with mysterious knocking sounds, furniture moving on its own, and objects being thrown across rooms. The activity quickly escalated, with one of the daughters, Janet Hodgson, becoming the focus of the haunting. Janet would levitate, speak in a deep, unnatural voice, and contort her body in unnatural ways. The events were witnessed by multiple people, including police officers, journalists, and paranormal investigators. One of the most famous photos from the case shows Janet seemingly being thrown across her bedroom by an unseen force. The Enfield poltergeist case attracted significant media attention and was investigated by Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famous American paranormal investigators. While some believe the events were